first, before we go, and this is a little bit of a silly thing, we've called this the snack size webinar, and my wife was very excited to finally get a product that was actually snack size. So I hope you'll appreciate that. All right, today I like this subject. There's some confusion about it. It's going to be quick, and some questions, and I've tried to walk through a demonstration that's going to address the questions about how we terminate these newfangled links. Now, in the past, we were used to our links having an outlet on one end, an outlet under your desk, and then an outlet on the other end at the patch panel. Just easier for me to carry links around like this. Now, what we've seen over the years is that some people are installing an access point, and an access point just needs you to plug in the cable. And they have said, because this is an access point, or perhaps a video camera, or some device that is not easily located, maybe up in the top corner of the room, people have said, I certainly want to use an administration point at my patch panel, but could I just put a plug on the far end of this link? Well, this model had not been accepted in the past, but we're going to take a look at how we would test this model because it's popular. Now, what we're going to be working with today is our, let me try and move these quietly. We're going to be working with our Versiv cable test platform, and we're going to be using the DSX 8000 model. This could be a DSX 5000. Either the 5000 or the 8000 are capable of running these tests. Now, I have a special gift for some of you out there. Every once in a while, the factory says, hey, could you try out this new thing we're working on? So we're looking at some new screens, and it still has the plastic on it. Yes, so I thought I would just let you all appreciate that moment. All right, moving right along. We're going to take a look at our link, and we're going to be looking at the difference between channel adapters, patch cord adapters, and permanent link adapters. When we're using a permanent link, come here, cable. There we go. When we're doing a permanent link test, we have this very specialized plug on the end of our permanent link adapter that it's a very high performance and very specific performance. So when this is mated into the jack, this would be in the patch panel, we're going to start our test right here. We're not going to include the cable that's attached, and we're going to measure the mated next of this plug and jack. Now, on the far end, we're going to use a channel adapter. And a channel adapter, per the design of the standard, does not include the mated next of the plug into the jack, because generally what we're going to be using is a factory-made patch cord. If you're using a factory-made patch cord, when this was made in the factory, they plugged it into a patch cord adapter. And in the patch cord adapter, we're going to include the mated next of this plug and jack. You'll see that the patch cord adapter is similar to a channel adapter, except you can tell that the connector is a little bit different. This is a very specialized connector. It has very specific performance. There's a different one for category 6, category 6A, and even category 5. They're not backwards compatible. So let's go to where we are today. We're going to take our channel adapter, plug into our channel adapter, plug our channel adapter into our tester, and so that you can see what's happening on the screen over here, I've got an image of the screen over there on the left. And let's push test to start. Oh no, I need to use either 2 permanent link or 2 channel adapters. If I run a channel test, it says, wait a minute, I'm not happy with this connector on the far end. Well, I'm not going to continue because that is incorrect. And if I choose a permanent link test and hit test, now, oh, how about that? It's checking for the remote. Oh, I was going to say that I forgot to turn on the remote, but I did that on purpose. I wanted to show you that the tester will actually turn on the remote if we leave it off. So we'll just find the remote here for a moment. I'm guessing that once it finds the remote, it's going to say, wait a minute, this adapter is wrong for this test limit. Please read your error messages. No, I'm not going to continue because I know that those test results will not be accepted if I use a permanent link adapter on one end and a channel on the other. So we've asked the standards committee to get ready for this new model where I have a plug on one end and a jack on the other and come up with test limits. But standards committees take a lot of time. There are a lot of people involved and they want to make sure they get it absolutely right. While we were waiting for the MPTL limits, Bixby came together and said, hey, here's a limit that we could use, the modular one connector permanent link. So here's a modular one connector permanent link limit, and we'll push test to start. And now this limit allows us to use the permanent link adapter on one end and the channel adapter on the other. But when the standards committee got to this, they said, no, we don't like that because we are not measuring the mated next of this field installed plug. Now, I would say I probably did a pretty good job installing that, especially considering I don't do that every day. But what we found is that it is very difficult to properly crimp on this ice cube and still get category 6 or especially not category 6A performance. So when the standard committee came out with their limit, the modular plug terminated link limit, what they said is we should use a patch cord adapter so that we can measure the performance of this field crimped on connector. So let me just slide this into my tester here. Now we're going to need to change the test limit, and the limit that we're going to use is the modular plug terminated link. Now I'm using the plus PoE limits because fairly often my wireless access point or my camera might be powered over this exact same line. If the outlet's in a difficult location, I don't want to have to run a power cord up to there as well. So when we run this test, we're looking very carefully at the quality of the termination. And what we're going to see, generating diagnostics. This is not passing. You'll see that we are failing near-end crosstalk. Now, will this link work? Will this link support 10 megabits Ethernet? Yeah, sure, of course. But the idea of the standard is not for today. It is for tomorrow. It is for the future. It is for when applications we can't even conceive of today have been developed. So what we've seen from several manufacturers is they're coming out with a fancier field installable plug that is going to have the performance that we're looking for. So let's switch our connection here. And now we're going to run the test on this link that has, well, just a better performing connector. How do I know that it is a better performing connector? Let's test it. So I will fix this one later, and let's push test to start here. All right, here it goes. Here it's running, and boy, drum roll, the drama. Hey, look at that. We're passing, and we're not passing by a little bit. You may have noticed we're failing next, 6 dB of next. We are passing dramatically. You'll see that return loss has a letter I. That will be on the test later. And the reason we have a letter I, well, my sample link is kind of short, so we didn't get 3 dB of insertion loss, but we can see that the return loss is also passing quite a bit here. All right, so we've seen that my handmade link did not pass the MPTL limits, and this fancy field installable connector did work. But what we needed was this patch cord adapter. Well, not everybody has a patch cord adapter. And I wanted to go to a little bit of a fun place where we talk about alternative solutions. Some of the manufacturers who have these fancy high-performance field installable connectors have said that they will accept test results for their warranty if you use a high-quality coupler on the far end together with a permanent link adapter. Now, this is not a here is a cheap run-of-the-mill coupler. This is really a high-performance coupler. So what they are suggesting as an alternative, people ask me this question, hey, this manufacturer, that manufacturer is saying that it's okay to test the cable in this way. Okay, they are the ones who are going to issue the warranty. They can test it any way that they want. However, the standard does not allow this, but I wanted to show you that this can be worked. So here we have this high-performance coupler. I'm going to change my test limit here, and we're going to run a permanent link test. Again, I'm going to use the plus PoE limits because I want to make sure that we have good resistance on balance performance. And let's run the test here. Now, yes, this is going to work. Work, darn it, because we're using their solution. And look at that, 7 dB of next, everything's working fine. But I can't recommend this solution for everyone due to the following. If you're not using, and again, they're the ones who are going to issue the warranty with their high quality component. But the challenge that I found is if I try to test my hand crimped connector with this high quality coupler, and let's plug in our permanent link adapter to the other end here. When we plug in the permanent link adapter, I'll just save that test result and we'll hit test. Now, the issue that's going to happen here, maybe it'll happen, as Mark likes to say, we're doing this live. There we go. We've got an issue. We're generating diagnostics, and the issue that we're finding is here. There we go. We're failing next again. The next on this hand-terminated connector is not so good. Now, I know it's this hand-terminated connector, but the question comes up when we go to fault info. Fault info is saying, take a look at the connector. And because we're having a next issue, do we use TDR or TDX? Yep. Next, we'll use TDX. And this is showing us very clearly on the far end that we have, all right, yeah, trust me, it's clear. It's showing us that we have a lot of next. We have a lot of next here on the far end connector. And the issue becomes, is that the coupler or is this the connector that came out? So, summarizing here, what I want to say is when you are running a modular plug terminated link test, the correct way to do the test is with a permanent link adapter on one end, and then the patch cord adapter of the category you are testing, that could be category 6, category 6A, you want to use the adapter on the far end. As always, when we finish here, I'm just going to send these test results up to the cloud. Once they get to the cloud, it will be the responsibility of my project manager to evaluate the test results, make sure they're working properly, and perhaps our consultant wants to look at those test results as well to make sure that everything is in order. Hey, why don't I toss the ball over to my consultant so he can take a look at those? And dramatically, we're going to switch over to Adrian. How are you doing today, Adrian? Adrian's going to find his mute button.
Yeah, I found the mute button.
You got it. You got it. Oh, very smooth. Very smooth.
All right, Jim, can you see my Linkware screen?
I can, yes.
Sweet, it's working. It's good when the plan comes together. Okay, so this is Linkware PC. Anybody uses our products is very familiar with this one. I've got access. Jim has given me access to his projects. I believe this is the right project, June 10 snack size MPTL. I'm going to click OK. And I've got 5 results to import. Let's import them all and see what we see. Bingo. So yeah, we got all the various ones here. Now, the reason why we're doing this little bit is not to promote Linkware Live, but more to promote social distancing, although we're taking it extreme today. We are about 50 miles apart. I'm up on Fidalgo Island here, just north of Everett in Washington State. Now, the reason why we're doing this is that first test that Jim did there, I can look at my adapter here, and here we see the DSX PLA permanent link adapter, and here we see the channel adapter. And so if I see a mix of those, the first thing I'm going to be doing is going like, why do I have a mix there? And if I see this test limit, Cat6 Mod 1 connect to permanent link, oh, that must be a wireless access point. That must be a link where my horizontal cable is terminated with an RJ45. So that's okay. However, if I was to look at the permanent link limit here and I saw two different links here, then I would be definitely making a phone call. And the reason why we keep harping on about Linkware Live is if you tell your techs to upload the results on a regular basis during the day, if there are any errors being made or you don't like what you're seeing, you can pick up the phone call them and say, hey, stop. Don't wait until all the end of the project and eventually you get the results, the client's moved in, and then you discover you don't like what you're looking at. Here, you can actually follow this as the technician goes along doing the testing. So
it's easier to fix while your people are still on the job site.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are occasions where it's like, great, the furniture's gone in on a false floor. Not only do you have to remove the floor tile to get access, now you have to remove furniture. I mean, it just becomes impossible. So this is a way to actually it's not real time as such, but it's pretty darn close to real time. So with that said, we are at the end of our snack size webinar. So let's open it up to questions.
Jim, one of the questions that came up was when you ran the test the first time on the return loss, you got that I for information. And could you just explain just very quickly what that's all about? Or maybe even more importantly, perhaps refer to the topic so that maybe someone could go and read up on it more, because I know it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I appreciate people were paying that much attention. The issue is something around the 3dB rule. And please feel free to hop into our trusty webpage. And here, I'll share this with you. On our webpage, in our knowledge base, you would be able to look up information about the 3dB rule, and that will explain exactly what's happening there. Basically, what happens is until we get to 3 dB of insertion loss, we're not going to start measuring return loss. So where I have the very short link, that purple link is very short, I don't get to 3 dB of insertion loss, so that means that I'm not going to measure return loss. That helps us out, especially on longer cables. Good question.
All right. We did get a question from a customer wondering if there's a ability to transfer KitKats through the cabling. We do not have a test for that yet, for sure. There's another question about, is there a maximum length of cable? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit, but is there a minimum length of cable, I think is what this customer is asking about. You know, is there a minimum length of cable that you can test and still be accurate?
I'll take that question. The short and curlies of that is it's not an accuracy issue, it's a math issue. And so if you have a really short link, you have two connectors in close proximity. And if those connectors are of, how can I say, value performance, then unless they are terminated perfectly, there's a real possibility you could actually end up failing that link. And it's not because of the tester, it's just because of the math. In fact, if you read the Cat6A standard, when they do their modeling for limits, they actually model the shortest link as 10 meters. So then you're going like, well, Adrian, are you telling me that the shortest link I can have is 10 meters or 33 feet? No. With a minimally compliant connector, yes, once you get below 10 meters, things can get tricky unless the terminations are perfect. So you know when those connector manufacturers tell you that their connector is so much better than the standard, pay attention to that, because if your design involves links that are less than 10 meters, then using one of those value connectors or minimally compliant connectors and minimally compliant cable can result in a marginal pass or even a fail at that stage. So again, I'm the manufacturer, I'm going to tell you it's not the tester. It's not an accuracy issue, it's purely a math issue on how they calculated the limit lines. And if you go and talk to the manufacturers, The ones with the better than performing value connectors, the one with the really good connectors, they will give you minimum distances such as 3.3 meters or around about, do the math, Adrian, around about 10 feet. So for the good connectors out there, yeah, down to about 3.3 meters, 10 feet, you should be okay, but note that termination needs to be pretty darn good. If your design involves less than that, then have a conversation with that manufacturer before you do that.
You know, you bring up a good point there. A lot of times people will ask us to compare what product works better and which product is less better. And people will automatically go to a 90 or 100 meter link to see if it passes, thinking that's the most difficult. But really, you should take a look at a long, a medium, and as you're saying, a short link, because the short link will really allow the performance of the connectors to show up.
Yeah, I mean, we've done what we call these bake-offs where we've been invited in where a customer has actually, and this is very clever, bought the cable, bought the connectors of the vendors they're considering. And they get their installer to terminate those connectors. And, you know, we say, well, go for the shortest link, 10 feet, go for the longest link, 295 feet, and somewhere in between. And go and test those links. Because, yes, at 295 feet, that is the worst case scenario for insertion loss, but it's not necessarily the worst case scenario for near and crosstalk. Typically, if your cable's good, the worst case scenario for near and crosstalk is going to be on the shorter links where you have two connectors in close proximity.
Okay, thank you. That's that was very good. One other question we had is, why do you have 6A modules that are not backwards compatible with Cat6 or Cat5e? We're referring to, of course, the patch cord.
Our patch cord adapters.
Right.
Well, it is the performance of this jack, this very specialized patch cord jack. It's only made by one manufacturer, and it has very specialized performance. And it turns out that that performance is not backwards compatible. We this was
Jim, I don't see your video, by the way. Are you showing video?
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. What I was showing, here I was, you missed the best part of it. What I was saying is, here's our channel adapter, and here are the patch cord adapters. And this jack that's in the patch cord adapters, it's only made by one manufacturer, is very specialized and has very particular performance, and it turns out it's not backwards compatible. The objective of the standards body when they were developing this was not ease of use, was not interoperability. Their objective was to make sure that people are using the best possible components. Now, what I wanted to show here, I've been using Cat6, and the reason I'm using Cat6 is I wanted to show this is not passing Category 6. So it's not going to pass Category 6A. But when we're doing our installations of access points, the standard is very clear on the recommendation of using Category 6 and actually two Category 6 limits. Category 6 limits. I'm using two Category 6A outlets for each wireless access point, because we are looking to the future, and we know that in the future, guess what? We're going to want to go faster with our wireless access points, so they're building more of a road than we require for today. And if everything plays out exactly right here, and I'm pushing it because we've been doing real well, you'll see that these field-terminated, designed to be field-installed plugs actually have pretty good performance. And look at that, we're passing near and crosstalk with
so Jim,
70 either. Yeah.
If I can jump in there,
Please.
There's another reason why it was done like this, and there's some interesting history. When they first started doing patch cord testing, we had a 5E and a 6 jack, and we allowed you to test a 5E cable with that Cat6 patch cord adapter, and because we were trying to be customer friendly. And then it pointed out that that actually created a situation. When you put a Cat5e plug into a Cat6 jack, the performance is going to look better than when you put that 5e plug into a 5e jack. Remember, we're trying to find the performance of that plug. So the short and curlies of that is if we allowed you to put a 5V jack into, say, a 6 or a 6A patch cord adapter, we would potentially be giving you a false pass. And that's the reason why it was done. It's like, oh yeah, it was Fluke. They wanted to sell 3 different patch cord adapters. No, and there was that conversation, I think, was around about 2004, 2003, and it got ugly really quickly because it was the manufacturers that actually started jumping on us and going like, no, you can't do that because you could have a poorly terminated RJ45 plug 5E, and even though it's poorly terminated, when you plug it into a Cat6 patch cord adapter, the actual patch cord adapter helps bump up that performance to create a pass. And so that's why it has to be like with like.
Very good. You know, here's the type of question we always get, and I'll leave it to you guys to figure out the best way to answer it. But the question is, what brands produce the high-end field installable connectors?
Oh, we are not going to go there. So we are agnostic, and I always say this to customers when asked about this in bake-offs, and the reason why customers do these bake-offs and comparisons is you can read the data sheet, or, as Jim always says, trust but verify. So you may see a performance sheet for the plug. Fantastic. But can you get that performance every time? Get the person who's installing it, your tech, or yourself, terminate that RJ45 plug on that horizontal cable, plug it into the tester, and actually see what performance you get. Now, I'm not suggesting you can't trust the cabling vendors and their RJ45 plugs. What I'm saying is trust, but verify. See if it works for you. Terminating an RJ45 is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And check the performance, see if it works for you. I mean, Jim did that. I mean, he's like going, well, you're telling me this field-terminated Cat6A plug is really good. All right, well, Jim terminated it. I mean, nothing special about the termination. It's just typical workmanship. We plug it in, and we saw a 6 dB on the near-end cross performance. 6 dB margin, what does that mean? Well, 6 dB is a factor of 2. So on that link that Jim tested, his performance is twice what the standard requires. Great, that gives me a great feel factor that, hey, this plug terminated in the real world will actually give me really good performance. And it's not just about performance, of course. There's all the other things that go with it, like availability, what discount structure you're going to get when you buy that. There's all those other considerations as well. But I really encourage people to actually terminate products and test it and see what they're seeing in terms of performance.
You know, Adrian, another point on that too is that different vendors have different ways of addressing that issue in terms of, you know, how you connect it together, and actually getting a few and trying them out is a good way to see which ones are going to be easy to install.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, we've hit the 30-minute mark, and I think we agreed that we weren't going to take anybody else's time up. So I'll hand it back to you, Mark.
Okay. If you do have any other questions, or if you would like to talk to us, go ahead and reach out to us. You can go to our website, which Jim is demonstrating right here. We do have a ton of articles under our knowledge base, which we kind of covered there. That's under our support. Pull down there. There you go, knowledge base. And if you would like to reach out to us, you could actually just send an email to info@flukenetworks.com with your questions, and we can have somebody get back to you and help you understand the questions you're trying to answer. And on behalf of Jim and Adrian, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Have a great day.